Hey, everybody. Welcome on into First and Tangent. I'm your host, Jake Sievers. This is the show where we talk first about the Packers, and then we go on a little tangent. Anything else that's happening in the world, whether it's pop culture or sports or what have you, music, movies, comedy, anything else related, just as long as it's not the Packers, because there are more things in the world to worry about, and I have a hard time doing so, but I'm going to try in my tangent section. First, before we talk about the Packers, let's just take a moment to appreciate that the NFL is back in full swing. We have a full Week 1 slate under our belts, and the NFL is the greatest sport. There's nothing else like it. There's nothing else like football in general, and it's now going to be on our televisions or on our laptops or on our screens every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday for the foreseeable future. Don't even need to think about the end because we're at the beginning, so why even think about the end of it? So that's that. NFL is back. Thanks be to God. We made it to the 2025 season. Happy to be here. Week 1 for the Packers. Could not be more happy with the performance. An unbelievable Week 1 across the board by the Green Bay Packers, taking down the Detroit Lions 27-13 in Lambeau Field on Sunday. Really complete domination from the start. Got the ball to start, went on a real long drive, I think 13 yards, or real long, 13 yards. No, 13 plays, capped off by one of those incredible Tucker Kraft catches in the end zone that we're all too accustomed to. And that really set the tone. Like, we are here, we're going to punch you in the mouth, immediately force a 3-and-out by our defense. Then went on another long drive with Jordan Love and co. on offense, resulted in a field goal to go up 10-0. And then the Lions went on a long drive to make it 10-3, ending that in a field goal. Packers defense played a little bend don't break, keeping everything in front of them, which they were incredible at the entire game. I will talk more about that in the defensive section, but in that drive specifically, bend don't break, Lions kick a field goal, make it 10-3, and then the Packers really said, all right, we're taking this game right now in the second quarter, and went on a 2-play drive. First 45 yards to Romeo Doubs, and then a fade route to Jaden Reed to the end zone. 2 plays, 68-yard drive to make it 17-3, and really not look back from there. Really had kind of a chokehold on the game from that point going forward. Offensive lull in the third quarter. The third quarter ended 17-6. And then we had some great complimentary football. Jaden Reed set us up with a punt return, 20-yard punt return at the start of the fourth quarter at the 36-yard line, the Lions 36. And then we went on a nice little 8-play, 36-yard touchdown drive to go up 24-6 at the beginning of the fourth quarter, or with like 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And at that point, it was like, all right, 3 possessions. Yeah. This game's pretty much over. The ensuing drive, Micah Parsons got his sack. The entire crowd erupted. He lifted up the 1. There it is. He lifted up the 1. Rashawn Gary came off the sideline, pushed him in the back. Everyone was just so excited for it. Lambeau erupted. We're getting some all-time crowd pops out of Green Bay this year already. First NFL, of course, draft night in Green Bay. Mark Murphy announcing that we're picking Matthew Golden in the first round. The crowd pop there, incredible. Micah Parsons getting announced out of the tunnel last. Crowd pop, unbelievable. And then Micah Parsons, his sack, and then him just pointing, giving the 1 up to the sky, saying, hey, I'm here. I'm happy to be in Green Bay. This is where I belong. I'm only 26 years old still. Unbelievable. And this is my home. So, yeah, 24-6. Micah Parsons gets that sack later in the drive, or later in that drive. That Lions drive actually ended with a touchdown. Isaac TeSlaa, which with probably the best first career catch of all time. Amazing one-handed touchdown. Shout out Hillsdale College Chargers. We'll be watching your season this year, no doubt. But 27-13. really 27-6 with the Lions touchdown in garbage time and the Packers needed out. Complete performance off the board, across the board, especially coming off 2 losses to the Lions last year, 24-14, with that key change at the end of the first half, beginning of the second half, that really put the game out of reach for us last year. And then losing in weeks 15 or 16 last year, 34-31, and really getting bullied on fourth downs. We didn't saw the Lions go for it on fourth down, but really the trenches were completely dominated by the Packers. We'll talk about that more defensively. But yeah, the trenches completely dominated by the Packers, and holistically, when you look at all 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams, can't really say too much, or can't really be much happier with every phase's performance. So now let's break it down and just look at the offense. I think offensively, everything starts up front. Everything starts with Jordan Love. I think that he was cool. He was composed. He was in complete control of the offense. He was super efficient. 16-22 passing. I think he had 230 something, maybe. Not even really worried about how many yards he ended up with, just because he was so efficient and the offense looked so easy. When the offense was moving and when the offense was like trying, it feels weird to say that, but when it was like, okay, we're going to go and score this drive, it just felt so easy for our offense to be able to do that. On the opening drive, he came out opening drive with completions to 6 different players, ended the game with completions to 10 different players off of those 16 total completions. So, again, just spreading the ball around. I heard the analogy earlier that the Packers are basically like the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I think that's very true. I think that's especially true with our receiving core, where it's, we'll spread the ball around. We've got the one star that we're hoping will escalate later this year with Matthew Golden, and he'll sort of fulfill that SGA role. But until then, we've got guys like, Romeo Doubs, if he's Jalen Williams, or who's another Thunder player, Alex Caruso. I don't know. Maybe Dontavian Wicks is like Alex Caruso. Just a bunch of young guys that don't really care about their role. They just know that when they get the ball, they can make plays. And we did not see drops as an issue at all on Sunday. I think the Packers just had 1 drop by Jaden Reed. But cannot complain at all about Jordan Love's performance or our wide receivers' performance. Going a little bit deeper, Jordan Love, his time to throw versus average depth of target this week, his time to throw was 17th, meaning that Going a little bit deeper in the stats with Jordan Love, his time to throw this week was 17th in the NFL out of 32, so he was sort of middle tier of getting the ball out, but his average depth of target was 2nd. And so he's not holding the ball longer and getting the ball out, and he's also not just going to his first read every time at the line of scrimmage. He's spreading the ball out, and he's doing so by attacking deep, which has become a staple of this Packers offense the past 2 years under Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love, and we're continuing that this year. Definitely, we continued that in week 1 with Jay Love's performance, and he just continues to be a gunslinger and is just getting more and more accurate and more in control of this offense. Additionally, another thing to be excited about from Jordan Love's performance against the blitz specifically, he was 8 of 9 for 128 yards with 1 touchdown and 5 first downs. So he absolutely kills teams when they blitz guys, but he also kills teams when they don't blitz, because we have so many different targets available that it's just an impossible task to ask opposing teams' corners to block for 3, 4, 5 seconds. One of our receivers will get open. That's just the way that this receiving core is built. Everyone is constantly moving. Sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't, whether or not you want to blitz against the Packers, because Jordan Love will be efficient and will be effective and will get the ball out. Last year, he was the least sacked quarterback in the NFL, despite being injured basically the entire year. He tore his MCL, I believe, minor tear of the MCL week 1 in Brazil, and he was very limited with mobility last year. And despite that, he was the least sacked quarterback in the NFL. He has incredible pocket awareness. He knows how to slide his protection. He knows when he needs to get the ball out. He knows where every defender is on the field. And that's just going to continue this year. His mobility is going to be increased this year. The offensive line is also retooled. Don't have Josh Myers anymore, who was definitely the weakest link at center. Slid Elton Jenkins over from his former Pro Bowl position at left guard. He's now our center. And the offensive line was absolutely phenomenal on Sunday, especially in pass pro. I mean, run blocking, yeah, Josh Jacobs didn't have the biggest impact. 19 rushes, 66 yards, and a touchdown, I believe. So we would love for that to be improved more in the future. But as far as passing and from pass pro, like Jordan Love was untouched. Aiden Hutchinson, we didn't see him the entire game. And our offense was just absolutely humming. Couple of things to look out for, especially with this quick turnaround against Washington that I'll touch on at the end. A couple of offensive linemen went down with injuries. Both Zach Tom and Aaron Banks, were listed as questionable. I didn't really see what happened with Aaron Banks. I know that Zach Tom got injured when Aiden Hutchinson, that Michigan man scumbag, he illegally blocked Jordan Love into Zach Tom, and Zach Tom sort of fell over, and I think he injured his hip. So both of those guys are listed as questionable. Neither of them have practiced at all this week leading up to Thursday Night Football against Washington. So if they're both out, then obviously that's a point of concern. And our offensive line will look like Rasheed Walker at left tackle, Jordan Morgan at left guard, Elton Jenkins at center, Sean Ryan at right guard, and then a tandem of Darian Kennard and Anthony Belton, both rookies, taking turns at right tackle. That's what happened this past game after Zach Tom got injured. And it looks like that is a possibility for this upcoming game against Washington. And then obviously Jordan Morgan, our first-round pick from last year. It's definitely nice to be able to have that first-round draft pick slide in and play left guard. Would love to be able to have him as an anchor tackle potentially in the future, but we'll see what Matt LaFleur and Goody feel about the future of our offensive line. But just a point of note heading into Washington that a couple of guys did get banged up, and our run game wasn't incredible. It didn't take the top off by any stretch of the imagination against the Lions. So that might be a point of concern against the Commanders heading into week 2. Yep, Josh Jacobs, 19 rushes, 66 yards, and a touchdown. One point of contention that I have with our play calling, at the end of the first half, we ran a direct snap to Josh Jacobs on 3rd and 1 to get the first down. That was like our pseudo tush push, like short yardage situation play. We've got Tucker Kraft. We've ran tush pushes with him in the past. Let's just do that. Or let's hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs. Let's not get pretty with it. Let's not do a direct snap and try to fool the defense. We were already pretty much manhandling the Lions at that point. There's no need to get tricky with it. Just hand the ball off or tush push it with Tucker Kraft, your absolute psycho tight end who will get that yard. But instead, that direct snap to Josh Jacobs got stuffed, and then we gave the ball back to the Lions at the end of the first half, which could have resulted in points for them. Thankfully, it didn't, of course, but obviously it could have. Final things to clean up from the offensive section. Matthew Golden, his time will come. I know that he only had 2 catches on 2 targets, but if you look at the All-22, he was absolutely toasting guys all day. On the touchdown pass to Tucker Kraft, it could have been very easily could have been a touchdown pass to Matthew Golden. He was wide open, breaking out to the right side of the field. every report remains that he 100% has it. He is a future wide receiver one in this league. Yeah, we might not have seen it in week one, but with as efficient as our offense was, we put up 27 points against a team who won 15 games last year and was the 1 seed in the NFC last year, I think. Or were the Eagles the 1 seed? Whatever. They won 15 games in the NFC last year. They were a really good team last year, and we Packers completely dominated all 3 phases. So Matthew Golden, his time will come. Receivers only had 1 drop. They did a great job of getting open. Dontavian Wicks remains a complete savage at being able to get open. No drops on the day. 16 to 22 for Jordan Love. Super efficient. Tucker Kraft, again, that whole shot, that touchdown, and he was mic'd up. Had some not super nice words to say to Brian Branch, but absolutely loved it, that it was right in his grill after the Brian Branch throwing of the helmet situation. He remains a complete psycho. He's a top 5 tight end in the league. There's no doubt in my mind about it. And this offense, completely humming. What else can you say about it? I can't say much more about it, so I'm going to move on to the defense. Okay, defensively. Going to start off with the headline in town, the guy that everyone was excited to see, the guy that got the biggest crowd pop leading out of the tunnels, Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons, in limited time, he 100% made an impact on the game. Outside of just him getting a sack, which, yeah, that was an incredible moment, and him putting the 1 up and everyone went crazy. Like, yeah, that's an awesome moment. But also just play to play when he was on the field, he made a major impact. He had 4 pressures when he was on the field versus off the field. Jared Goff got the ball out more than half a second faster when he was on the field. So 2.8 seconds versus 3.336 seconds when Micah Parsons was off the field. And this really came into play in that Evan Williams interception in the second quarter when the Lions were driving. We weren't sure if they were going to make it a game or not. And then Micah Parsons he's on the field. He's causing chaos. Evan Williams steps into the throwing lane, shuts the drive down, keeps the score 17-3 for the Packers going into the half. And that was indirectly or directly, depending on how you want to see it, due to Micah Parsons being on the field and just being in the back of Jared Goff's mind, saying, oh, I got to get rid of this ball or else he's going to sack me. And then he got rid of the ball, and then Evan Williams intercepted it. Wish that Jared Goff had that internal clock when he was rolling out to the right, but he did not. And Micah Parsons showed off that 4.36 speed, hunted him down like a lion, ironically hunts gazelles, and brought him down, pointed to the heavens, shot the 1 up, said, thank you, God, for making me a Green Bay Packer. And we said, thank you, Micah Parsons, for getting out of Big D. Away from Micah Parsons, Rashawn Gary had a sack and a half. Lucas Van Ness had half a sack, probably his best game as a pro. And this is exactly what we expected when picking up, or not necessarily expected. I think expected, but mostly we're hoping for is that when Micah Parsons is on the field, he takes up so much attention that these other players that we've invested in and that we've built up through the draft and through year over year of consistent coaching and now being in second year of Jeff Hafley's system, that these guys are going to get better and they're going to play better because they've got better guys around them. So Rashawn Gary with a sack and a half, Lucas Van Ness with half a sack, 4 sacks as a whole for the team, Devontae Wyatt with the other one. 9 TFLs, only 1 explosive play for the Lions in total, and that was a Sam Laporta catch. So it wasn't even Jamison Williams or Jahmyr Gibbs or Amon-Ra St. Brown or any of those electric guys on the Lions that you know can take the top off your defense. Again, Packers were incredible at keeping the Lions burners in front of them. So that 1 explosive play was to Sam Laporta. Everything else was in front of our defense. Micah Parsons, Lucas Van Ness, and Rashawn Gary were on the field together for 7 plays total and allowed 6 yards total. So when there isn't an injury going on with Micah Parsons, and when this defense is fully 100% healthy to what Goody and LaFleur and what Jeff Hafley envisioned when we made this trade, they are statistically the best defense of all time. 6 yards on 7 plays, that's 0.857 yards per play. Yeah, I'll take that. And that's what we envisioned. So that's just a fun little stat from this past game. All of this being said, it's I, haven't even mentioned probably the Packers' best defensive player from the game, and that's Edgerrin Cooper. He had 12 tackles. He was all over the field, 8 total tackles. I think he was in on 3 or 4 TFLs. I said it before the season. He's going to be an all-pro. The dude is just an absolute gamer. He runs a 4.5 140. He is the most athletic inside linebacker in the NFL. He's got instincts for days. Any play that needs to be made that's in front of him, he will be able to make it. I know it sounds like hyperbole, but it's not hyperbole. If you look at the tape on Edgerrin Cooper, there is not a play that you think, 56 could have made that. That was not a great play by Edgerrin Cooper. It's like, no, every play by Edgerrin Cooper is a great play. So he is just absolutely unbelievable. Him covering Jahmyr Gibbs, I believe he covered him on 8 of Jahmyr Gibbs' catches, and Jahmyr was 8 for 8 as far as targets and receptions with only 5 yards. So like I said, these guys were keeping these super fast defenders were keeping everything in front of them, not letting any of the line's explosive players get over the top or get a corner because that's where their edge is. And so our edge, Edgerrin Cooper, he'll just make the play before the play is even there to be made. He will be in the right position before you knew that he was going to be there, and that's how he stops these plays. That's how he allows Jahmyr Gibbs, probably top 2 elusive guy in the NFL, either him or Bijan. That's how he allows him to not have any yards after the catch. Speaking of Jahmyr Gibbs, he actually set an NFL record this game. So before or after this game, I suppose, there are 5 players in NFL history to have at least 10 catches in a game and less than 40 receiving yards. And Jahmyr Gibbs actually is at the lowest ever receiving yards for a player with 10 or more catches. He finished the game with 10 catches for 31 yards, a new NFL record low. He had 19 total touches for 50 yards. So if you're doing the math at home, he had 9 rushes for 19 yards. Again, just our defenders are absolute freaks, and they rally to the ball, and this is exactly what Jeff Hafley has been preaching the past year and a half. He is not going to be our defensive coordinator after this year. I know that some people are saying, let's not, don't let anyone else know about Jeff Hafley. Keep him our little secret. No, he is just completely unbelievable. He's turned around the culture. The defensive culture has done a 180 in Green Bay, going from Joe Barry to Jeff Hafley. And I now get excited if the Packers now are deferring and receiving the ball in the second half, and we start off on defense. It's like, all right, sweet. Let's see what our defense is going to be able to do. It was before. Let's see if Rashawn Gary or Edgerrin Cooper or Quay Walker are going to be able to get to the quarterback. And now let's see if Micah Parsons or Lucas Van Ness or Rashawn Gary or Edgerrin Cooper still or Quay Walker are going to be able to get to the quarterback, or Devontae Wyatt if he's going to be able to get there again, or Colby Wooden if he's going to make a great play, or Evan Williams if he's going to make a great play, or Xavier McKinney if he's going to make a great play. So it's like we have so many great tools at our defense's disposal. And it's just so complimentary. And when you look at complementary football and all 3 phases, positive positively impacting the other, and all 53 guys on a team picking each other up. I think there's not a more obvious sequence to point to for complementary football than at the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, when the offense was lulling little bit. It was 17-6. Packers offense hasn't scored since like halfway through the second quarter. And then the offense was driving to end the third quarter. Daniel Whalen punts it from the Detroit 46 on a 4th and 5. So, possibly questionable play call by Matt LaFleur to decide to punt that. Whalen gets it from the 46 down to the 8, which is where it's downed. And then Rashawn Gary promptly sacks Jared Goff to get them down to the 1. And then Colby Wooden, he got so lost defensively. Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary were both on the field that the defense or the offensive line basically parted like the Red Sea, and Colby Wooden, lined up at nose tackle, just waltzed into the Detroit backfield and promptly took down Jahmyr Gibbs for another loss to force a 3-and-out. And then after that 3-and-out, so if you're still with me, Daniel Whalen boots it down to the 8-yard line. Defense promptly forces a 3-and-out, and then Detroit punts it back to the Packers. Jaden Reed gets a 20-yard punt return, sets up the Packers at the 36-yard line. Packers go on a nice 8-play, 36-yard drive. Nice and easy touchdown with Josh Jacobs finishing it off 24-6 halfway through the fourth quarter, and pretty much there's your ball game. So our defense was really aided by special teams getting Detroit backed up in their own end zone, letting the Dogs pin their ears back on first down, Rashawn Gary forcing that sack, and then Colby Wooden waltzing back, forcing a 3-and-out. And then our special teams, again, positively impacts our offense by Jaden Reed getting a nice 20-yard punt return. So, Rich Bisaccia, I called you out 2 weeks ago saying, earn that paycheck. You are the highest paid special teams coach in the NFL, and you absolutely earned that paycheck this week just by that sequence alone. Not only by that sequence, though. In week 1, the Packers had the second best starting field position, and the Lions were 29th. That accounts for a 15-yard difference on the field before the drives even start. So that's where a lot of games are won and lost, is in those aggregate yards, in those longer or shorter punts or decisions to touch back, or now the kickoff rule is so different. So that special teams coach is much more important. We're starting the field, second best starting field position in the NFL in week 1. Lions had 29th, and that's directly correlated to our special teams and to Daniel Whalen being a weapon, and Rich Bisaccia getting the job done from a special teams coach perspective. Big picture for the Lions. No Frank Ragnow, so I'm expecting the Lions to get better throughout the season with their offensive line. And then obviously this was the first game without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, their offensive and defensive coordinators from last year. So like I said prior, I'm really happy that the Packers were able to get them in week 1, because it was very evident that they just weren't as sharp and as crisp as they were last year. The offense obviously put up 33 points a game last year, the Lions did, and only were able to muster up 13, really 6, and then an extra 7 in garbage time. So just an immaculate performance from the Packers across the board. Offense looked really sharp. Defense was flying around. 11 hats to the ball, 9 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, only 1 explosive play, 2 probably the most explosive offense on paper in the NFL. Special teams look sharp as well. So really pleased to be 1-0, first place in the NFC North, and probably one of those teams that everyone rightfully has a target on us. So now we've got a quick turnaround, staying in Green Bay, but now on Thursday, taking on the Washington Commanders. Washington Commanders, one of the most exciting teams to watch in the NFL, basically just because their quarterback is electric. Like, their skill players don't really move the needle too much for me, especially this year. Like Austin Eckler, really Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, I think everyone just loves him because they call him Bill, but he doesn't really move the needle for me too much. And then Deebo Samuel, well, he's fat and old. And that's really the story of what this team is. It's like the Commanders are a group of old heads led by a young guy. It's Austin Eckler. It's Deebo Samuel. It's Zach Ertz, Laramie Tunsil, Bobby Wagner, Von Miller, Marshawn Lattimore. Like, it's old players that everyone is familiar with, and it's like, oh, they're still starting in the NFL? Yes, they still are starting in the NFL, and they're playing well. They're on the Commanders. The Commanders are the oldest team in the NFL by starting age. The Packers are the youngest, so it's a little battle of the ages here on Thursday. Hopefully that quick turnaround will impede the old heads a little bit more with their R&R and their rehab, just having a shorter week. Hopefully they're a little bit more sore when they wake up on Thursday than the young guns on the Packers. Jaden Daniels, though, the team goes as he goes. He is an incredible athlete. Our defense is built to counteract that speed. Micah Parsons, like I said earlier, he ran a 4.36 40, which is the third fastest on the Packers, which is insane that he's a D end and outside linebacker. Edgerrin Cooper ran a 4.51 40. Quay Walker ran a 4.52 40. Like, these guys are freak athletes. We got them to counteract freak athletes on the opposite side of the field. So the Commanders go as Jaden Daniels goes. Our corners, Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine, were not really tested against the Lions. I think that's definitely a major credit to our front seven, just being able to get back and disrupt Jared Goff, and they were able to keep everything in front of them. But yeah, Keyshawn Nixon going against Terry McLaurin. Obviously, that matchup on paper favors Terry McLaurin. But if the Packers are able to just get in the backfield and disrupt Jaden Daniels and make him feel uncomfortable, which I don't think we've seen yet in his entire NFL career, as Jaden Daniels feel uncomfortable. But with Micah Parsons and with Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness and Devontae Wyatt and yada, 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 I already listed off all the guys. If they're able to neutralize Jaden Daniels' rushing ability and are able to force him to get the ball out sooner because he's not able to get out of the pocket, and they're able to lift up our corners, then, yeah, obviously I like our odds. Like, the Commanders, they had a pretty... they had a nice walk through the neighborhood in week 1, taking on the Giants 21-6. The Giants, they've got no clue what they're doing. They got Russell Wilson at quarterback. Why are you doing that? You drafted a quarterback. We know what Russell Wilson is capable of, and it's not leading you to the playoffs, so probably try out Jackson Dart. That's just my 2 cents. But, yeah, I mean, the Commanders are good. They made it to the NFC Championship last year, but I do think in my heart of hearts that the Packers have the best roster in the NFL. So we'll see what happens on Thursday. But, yeah, I'm going to pick another Packers victory just because the Lions won 15 games last year. They have pretty much the same players. They don't have Graham Glasgow. They don't have the same awesome offensive and defensive coordinator, obviously, but, the guys play on the field. And our guys out-toughed their guys. And toughness is the identity of the Detroit Lions. Toughness was not the identity of the Packers, and I still don't think it's the identity of the Packers. I think it's more speed and aggressiveness, not necessarily I'm just going to pound you into the ground 50 plays a game. That's not really what our game is, and we were still able to completely dominate the trenches. And so if we're able to out-tough teams without that being our primary advantage, and then the sky is the limit for this Green Bay Packers team. Obviously, we'll see if the offensive line is still healthy and what's going on with Zach Tom and, I'm forgetting the other guy right now, Aaron Banks, sorry. We'll see what's going on with Zach Tom and Aaron Banks come game time. But yeah, I'll say Packers 31, Commanders 21. Last time the Packers played against Dan Quinn, that was playoff game in Dallas. He was the defensive coordinator, so obviously Dan Quinn has familiar ties with Micah Parsons, but Packers are going to win this game because we've got the better team. We've got the best team in the NFL, and we're going to keep putting it on display week after week. Week 1, we did it, absolutely obliterated the Detroit Lions. Week 2, short week, we're the youngest team in the NFL. We're going to come off hot. Didn't have to travel also. So 31-21, Packers over the Commanders. Book it. Go, Pack, go.
Favre taking over from the 43 as Peterson runs left. Tied up, and they took the ball out of his hands, and it'll be a touchdown for Clay Matthews, the rookie.
You'll see the first two tacklers hold Adrian Peterson up. Then Clay Matthews comes in, and he's just going for the football. They've got him stopped. The second, third, even fourth guy come in, punch the ball out, rip it out, whatever you got to do, jar the ball.
Hey, everybody. Welcome on back into First and Tangent. You've made it through the first part. Now you've reached the tangent part. Thank you for making it through the Packers. Hope that you enjoyed that talk. Or if you're just skipping ahead straight to the tangent, want to know what I'm talking about today, first of all, happy to have you here. Thank you for being here. Please comment, review, subscribe, do whatever you got to do to help boost the algorithm. Probably not gonna, but it is what it is. It never hurts to ask. And these are my thoughts for this week. I really, weirdly enough, want to talk about like the importance of just competence at the local government and like at the municipal level, and just making sure that the people who are in charge of making decisions for a greater group of people are competent in making those decisions. The reason specifically why I want to talk about that is the two cities that I've lived in most recently. So I'm currently a resident of St. Louis. I live in downtown St. Louis. And my previous place of residence was in Chicago. And Chicago and St. Louis, two cities notoriously known to not have been ran very well as of late. Sort of over like the past 50 or 60 years, like the reputation of those cities have really gone into the trash bin, as it were. Skyrocketing crime rates, skyrocketing homelessness and poverty, skyrocketing murder rates. And it's just not been a good situation. And the example that I have for Chicago, because I'm not going to get into all of the bigger reasons why there are issues, but like one very clear thing that we can point to that made life worse for Chicagoans, suffering thuckatash. One very clear example that we can point to is in 2008 when Mayor Daley signed a 75-year contract with, I think, like Saudi Arabia or Dubai or United Arab Emirates or one of those Middle Eastern countries, a 75-year contract granting them the rights to all 3,600 parking meters in Chicago. Just letting the Middle East ramp up parking prices for Chicago residents in Chicago. The reason it was in 2008, so in the midst of the financial crisis, and a lot of businesses were going under, and so Mayor Daley sold this for $1.15 billion to this foreign entity for rights over all 3,600 toll booths. If you've been to Chicago, you know how expensive parking is. It's insane. It's like $5 to park for a couple hours on the side of the street in Chicago. The foreign entity made up that $1.5 billion contract in 15 years, and then there were just 60 years beyond that where they're just jacking up parking prices for Chicagoans, for people who work in Chicago, who go out to eat in Chicago, who spend money in Chicago, and all that money is just getting funneled directly overseas because of that bad deal that Mayor Daley made in 2008. Just completely the reason was to get more money in local government and to alleviate the financial crisis, the burden that the financial crisis of 2008 was having on the local Chicago government. So that was the reasoning behind it, but just there was zero foresight in this decision, zero long-term consideration at all. And then for the next, whatever it is, 15 years, it was 2008, 75 years. So the next 67 years or so, maybe, is just, money going directly overseas from Chicagoans trying to park in their city. So, bad example in Chicago. And then I've got two bad examples in St. Louis of just incompetence and people who work in public service blatantly not serving the people that they were elected to serve. So this was over the winter, my first winter in St. Louis, and it was a pretty snowy day. Like, I'm from Michigan, and so I'm used to the snow. I live on the 5th floor, and so wasn't looking directly on street level. And I was like, yeah, all right, it's snowy out. And then when I left my garage, my parking garage, it was literally Mad Max out on the streets, except instead of sand, it was snow. Like, you could not see the roads at all. There were cars just abandoned in the middle of the street and on the sidewalk. And it wasn't snowing like crazy. There just were zero plows. There were no plows out and running at all in downtown St. Louis. Like, in once one of the great cities of the United States, still like the gateway to the West, if you will, and is just, if there's a slight snow at all, cars abandoned, madness, zero plows. The plows are in St. Louis. They have plows. I've seen snow plows, physically seen them. They just were not up and running for this very clear, very obvious snowstorm that everyone knew was coming. It was on the forecast. It wasn't a surprise. It was like, all right, yeah, St. Louis is going to get hit with some snow. I looked out my window. We were hit with some snow, and then there just weren't plows out and running. And so no one here knows how to drive in the snow, and it was madness. That day, I had to get a new license, and because there were not any plows, I just walked to the DMV. It wasn't a long walk. I just put some boots on and tossed in the AirPods, tossed on a podcast, and walked to the DMV, trudged my way there. And when I got to the DMV, it was closed with no notice, and it didn't say it online. It didn't say anything. It said closed due to the snow or due to the weather or something like that. And so it was just two levels of government, like, multiplying their incompetence. They're not working, so I can't work. So therefore, thank you for not working, because I'm still getting paid by everyone's tax dollars. So just as frustrating as it can be. Like, no one is working, and I'm paying for it, and I'm trying to get a new license, but I can't. Because the people who are in charge of making decisions just are not making the right decisions, or are deciding to not make decisions at all. The other example of St. Louis is this past spring, there was a tornado, and it was pretty scary. It was like a pretty big tornado that hit downtown in like a pretty populated area, or not downtown, but like the area around downtown. I think it was Tower Grove Park or Forest Park. I'm still new to the area, so one of those. And the tornado alarm did not go off across the city. The reasoning for why the tornado alarm did not go off across the city is the person whose job it is to hit the tornado alarm wasn't in the office. That's it. That's what their reasoning was they don't have a way to virtually or remotely set off the tornado alarm, or they don't have a second alarm, or they, our office hours. The explanation was it wasn't they weren't in the office. And so not only was it It was during office hours, but if, for example, like the tornado happened at 7 p.m., they would not have been in the office. Therefore, the tornado alarm would not have gone off. On that day, they happened to be doing like a field trip or something, so they weren't in the office, even though it was during office hours. But the issue is that they did not have an alternate way to set off the tornado alarm for the city, to alert citizens that there's a tornado to seek shelter. And so I'm not saying that directly because of that, people passed away, but like 5 people did die in the St. Louis tornado. And it's not directly because of the incompetence, but there are things that we can point to. Like, there was not, the tornado alarm didn't go off because they weren't in the office, and there isn't a way to remotely or virtually set off the citywide tornado alarm. So, yeah, it is important for these people that hold, quote unquote, like small government jobs to be held accountable and to know what they're doing and to be competent. We saw it during COVID. That's what opened my eyes up to, oh yeah, the people at lower levels than the presidency or at governor still do affect our lives. But yeah, it is important for those people to be smart and to be competent. And yeah, that's like just my little PSA for the day. Like, know what's going on in your community. Know your candidates and make smart decisions, because the world that we voted for is the world that we live in. So be smart. Go Pack, go.